There are injury bugs, and then there are injury infestations. And I think I can safely say that that is what the Blue Jackets are experiencing through their first 13 games of the season. News coming out today that Zach Werenski will be out for the season with a torn labrum and separated shoulder. You knew from the post-game comments from Brad Larson that it was going to be bad, that it was definitely going to be long-term. It was just a matter of how long-term. And, Blue Jackets, if you're involved in Blue Jackets in any way, whether you're a coach, a teammate, player, fan, water supplier, equipment manager, your worst fears were confirmed with this revelation that Zach Werenski would be out for the season. And another long-term, just brutal injury. Nick Blankenburg is also going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken ankle. And Erik Gudbranson with a not so long-term injury, but still is day-to-day with an upper body injury. And that is just the injuries that came out of last night's game against the Flyers, who played a very physical game. I don't think they did anything particularly like crazy dirty or anything. It was just a physical game, and it's hockey. Sometimes shit happens, and this is the result of that. I mean, this is obviously awful news for the Blue Jackets, especially on defense where they're already struggling, and some of their key players like Werenski and Blankenburg and Gudbranson are being out. That is in addition to the relatively new injuries of Sean Corrali being day-to-day with an upper body injury. Jake Voracek is still listed as being out indefinitely. They seem to be maybe not sure on when he's coming back. It does seem to be not very long-term, they are hoping. I mean, I guess it did take them a while to give Justin Danforth the out for the season moniker, but you would think if Jacob Voracek was going to be out for a significant amount of time, we would have known by now. This injury's been known since the second game in the Finland series, so they've had about about a week to sit on it, and it's still listed as indefinite, so we don't know when Jake Voracek is coming back. Maybe the team's holding out hope that it can be maybe shorter term than longer term. And then injuries that we already knew about for a while now. Danforth has been out for the season with more shoulder and labrum issues, and Boquist is scheduled to miss about 4 or 5 more weeks with a broken foot. So that means that Jake Bean, Andrew Peeke, and Vladislav Gavrikov are the only defensemen that made the final roster that are still healthy. Gavin Bayreuther, Marcus Bjork have been called up as replacements last night. Marcus Bjork looking like he might make his NHL debut here coming up, and David Jiricek has been an emergency call-up as well. This is going to be a huge test for a defense that has already struggled so far. It's no secret that the Blue Jackets defense has been horrible this year, and now this litany of injuries and now 4 of their 7 guys that made the lineup are now going to be out for who knows. I mean, even with Gudbranson coming back, that's still half of your starting lineup being out for a significant amount of time. It's going to take a Herculean effort both on the part of the players and the coaches to even have a defense that can that can tread water, that can be okay. That seems like it's going to be a monumental task as well. And the forward group is feeling it too, as Emil Bemstrom and Brendan Gaunce were called up as injury fill-ins for this game against the Flyers. Like I said, the injury to Voracek and now Corrali, just adding on to the guys like Danforth being hurt. Corrali is day-to-day with an upper body injury, so hopefully you think that maybe he gets back sooner rather than later, but still, it's a patchwork group for the Blue Jackets right now. I mean, injuries do happen. It's just that this has been it's been a rough one. It's been a rough stretch of games for the Blue Jackets, both in the on-the-ice results, and you can tell physically. It hasn't been their year so far. I'm not saying, again, maybe they can drag themselves out of it. I think it was the 2019-2020 season that got shortened, where it seemed like, pretty much every forward got hurt except for Pierre-Luc Dubois and Oliver Bjorkstrand. I know it wasn't everyone, but it felt like basically every forward on that group got injured, and Seth Jones went down eventually. But that team managed to the call-ups that were in that game, I think that included Emil Bemstrom. The call-ups from the Cleveland Monsters really provided a hunger and a spark that team didn't have early on in the season, and that they actually made their way to like eventually third in the Metro and into a playoff spot, but they did have a ton of games in hand when the season was stopped. But that resulted in the bubble series qualifying win against Toronto, and then a series in the Lightning, which it was a very different Lightning and CBJ team facing each other. But enough about the past. Again, maybe this can be another example of that, where the defensemen that get called up from the Cleveland Monsters have that hunger and that fight that inspire the roster players that are still in the lineup, that are normal roster players, guys like Andrew Peeke and Gavrikov and Jake Bean, who, Jake Bean's been at the brunt of a lot of blame from CBJ fans. I guess, but they don't really have too many people better in the system right now. You think David Jiricek probably ideally is still about a year away, but sometimes duty calls, and sometimes you have to ice somebody, and eventually it's going to have to be David Jiricek. They tried calling up Bayreuther and Bjork to try to avoid David Jiricek having that extra year of his ELC slide. That's probably not going to happen with all these long-term injuries, and you don't just want David Jiricek just sitting in the press box. So I guess the silver lining in this is that the Jackets are going to see what they have right now in some of their guys, like they signed in the offseason Marcus Bjork. They're going to see if David Jiricek can hang around consistently long-term in an NHL roster. And maybe this round of injuries gets the Jackets a much better draft pick than maybe they were expecting, and they can fall back on half our D core that was already underperforming got hurt. I know that's not what you want to happen. That's not what I want to happen. I want to talk about this Jackets team overcoming these injuries and winning again, much like in the 2019-2020 season. But now it's we just sit and wait and see if this lineup can gather results, even if it is banged up and bruised by a healthy margin. So thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more like it. I would like to make videos about not the teams that I root for going through a ton of injuries, but it is significant. It is news. Leave a comment down in the comments below if you have something to say, and I will see you at the next one.